It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello again and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil and another guest, Shelley. You wanted it and we are doing it. We are having guests this year. Yes. And so before we get to that, let us just say, this is episode 148. Happy Friday. It's wine time.
Happy Friday.
Since we have the new YouTube channel, Shelley is now looking at the camera much more than I am. Hi. But people on YouTube, this is Edward Holmes with J. Bookwalter. Edward, thank you for spending some time with us today, talking through 6 wines that J. Bookwalter produces, creates. And this is just a partial list, but man, what a lineup. We have actually had 2 of these 6 within the last 3 weeks. So when we were pouring at the hospice event.
Sure.
But you have some really fun things that we're going to be doing today. Some comparing.
Yeah.
And to get into the story of J. Bookwalter, it'd be my suggestion and hope that we could pour that first wine.
Absolutely.
While we we'll taste it while we. This is going to be. Oh, look, we have different glasses all around.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you gotta keep it
Heck
tight.
yeah, you do.
Goodness sake.
Tight and right. So we are starting off with Chardonnay.
Yeah.
This is their, we called it, this is the,
Yes.
I want to say peach,
Rhymes
but
with,
it's not.
sounds like.
Yeah. You know.
Readers is our
Readers, there we go.
Right.
Elvis Costello has a show
Why
called
didn't I
Spectacle.
just look at
Well, I knew it was glasses, but I was thinking
That takes
papers.
all the fun out of it.
This is a 2021 Reader's Chardonnay that we're going to toast up to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, Shelley, and of course, the most important,
Peace on earth.
peace on earth.
Yeah. Oh, goodwill to men, or did you already cover that?
During Christmas, absolutely.
Excellent, fantastic.
And goodwill to all men.
Mm.
Yes, so.
So today we have a really cool opportunity to dig through the kind of lion's share of our portfolio. We have an introduction to our readers tier, which is Reader's Chardonnay, Reader's Sauvignon Blanc, a Merlot, Cabernet, and a Syrah. I grabbed our 2021 Chard today because it's got a wonderfully complex flavor profile and a really cool story behind it. We're going to compare that, taste and compare it to our 2021 Double Pot Chardonnay. And you're going to have to excuse me as I run out to my car because I have 20 and 21 in the car, and what I have on the table is 20. And I love the opportunity to taste same vintage, different expression.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about this is the Reader's Chardonnay is 70% Chardonnay, 30% Viognier, and it's aged 100% in stainless steel.
Okay, because that's what I was going to ask on the nose. That's exactly what I'm getting. And even tasting this, I'm not getting, well, now I can say no, I'm not getting any oak, but I was thinking there's not a lot of oak on this, but there's a creaminess.
Yeah.
What is the residual sugar on this? If there's a little Viognier
Good
in there?
question.
I'm just
So,
kind of curious.
it's under a gram per liter. So what you have right here is a very dry white wine. That luxurious mouthfeel and that kind of presence that you'd otherwise associate with sweetness or RS comes from Viognier. Viognier is a grape that usually you let hang fully develop before you pick.
Get those sugars.
Sure,
Yeah.
especially in like Cambrio and areas on the eastern side of France where the wine needs that extra time as the days are getting shorter and temperature is lower and you need that longer exposure. We don't need that so much in Eastern Washington. We still have high heat rolling right through October.
Yeah,
so
we can.
Yeah, so
And
actually,
you needed it last year.
last year we did.
Yeah, you needed it last year because of that late spring start, right?
21 we didn't need it.
Yeah.
21 was a hot year. And the other thing is that what we consider a hot year, most other wine producing regions outside the Rhone, it's like, oh my, we're dying hot. So the problem when it comes to domestic Viognier, because most consumers might recognize, is it tends to be more on the flabby side. But really great Viognier has that nice acidity. So it's acidity versus mouthfeel versus that kind of floral, perfumey character, a little spice to it. For us, we love being able to blend this in with Chardonnay because it almost takes up it covers the absence of oak. So it gives you mouthfeel, it gives you that floral component, right?
And by the way, this finish
Isn't that pretty?
is spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's like right when you swallow, then you've got this still burst coming on the back of my tongue, and it's still there now.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
Well,
finish.
this is the wine. So I met John Bookwalter about 15 plus years ago at a trade tasting. I was working for obviously another winery, and John was there. And John is a character. He's he's big personality, super bright. Doesn't take himself too seriously, and his focus has always been on really making premium wine out of Washington State. Following the footsteps of his father as kind of a pioneer viticulturist in Washington. And I go over to taste through the wines, looking for his reds, and I try this wine that at that point was called Couplet. A couplet, and I go, Jesus, shit, what is this? And he goes, oh man, it's Chardonnay blend. I go, it's delicious. He goes, yeah, it's stainless steel, it's a little Viognier fit in there. I'm glad you like it because I'm like, wow, this is really good. So at the end of the tasting, I horse trade with him for a few bottles of it, right? I go home and throw it down in the cellar. At that point, I'm remodeling a house in downtown Seattle, built in the 40s, and I excavate all around the house because I bring new plumbing in. While doing that,
And you put a drain in, knowing downtown.
should have,
Yeah,
wouldn't be smart.
Yeah.
Right. But she would have been there then. And instead, I break the homeostatic bond between clay and concrete, which I didn't even know existed. But I did when it started to rain, because every drop of moisture in Wedgwood came into our basement and flooded it to about 2 feet deep.
Oh, no.
So I'm down there with a shop vac, because I haven't gotten a sump pump yet, so I'm not done. And I'm hauling buckets of water out and I'm trying to watch it go down. Meanwhile, I have labels floating across. And it's going into the holidays. I mean, literally, at that point, my family, they're gone. I'm just there, man against water. And I grab from one of the upper tiers this bottle of Couplet, and I opened it, and I'm drinking it out of the bottle. And holy shit, this is delicious. So on the back is the number to the winery, and I send him a voicemail where I'm like, hey, John, this is at Holmes out there. If you remember being in this moment, by the way, I'm just drinking your Couplet right now, and this is phenomenal. So fast forward a few years go by, I don't see Couplet anymore, but I keep asking about it because I've told the story 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. He says, hey, I'm going to call it Couplet because no one knows what a Couplet is. But people do know what Chardonnay is. So we make sure that it's using using 80% Chardonnay, drops down to 75 on time. But we co-ferment. That's the other key thing. Co-ferment it with the Viognier. So you're not blending post-fermentation.
Right.
So you get that full integration of flavors.
So you are in the stainless barrel with the Viognier 30%, and with, is it right, 70-30?
70, it's 80-20.
80-20 roll. Yeah, 20. 80% Chardonnay.
Sometimes 75, 80-20.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And the co-fermenting used to be a one-time Friday, one day a week, because it's very interesting what that is. Because a lot of people will just take the barrel of Chardonnay and the barrel of Viognier and they'll start playing and taste testing, right? By doing this, you're kind of committed. 100%. So yes. You'll taste before putting it in the barrel to find out, okay, what are the profiles of these two wines? I think we can get away with doing 80% Chardonnay on this production and 20 Viognier. Let's go with that, and we hope that's going to turn out that way.
And I think a lot of that also leads into the back background and story of both John Bookwalter and certainly his father, Jerry Bookwalter.
Jerry, yeah.
When it comes to sourcing, when it comes to quality of fruit. When John took over winemaking from Jerry, John in '97 came back in. His father started Bookwalter Wines in Pasco. And John, meanwhile, was working out of college with both Gallo and Coors in sales and marketing.
Gallo's a good place to be educated.
It really is.
I don't care if you're selling phone books, copiers, money, houses, cars. If you have Gallo training, you have a leg up. You really do.
Yeah.
And then beside it all, you also have the largest production facility of wine in the world. So his sales training came there. He was at Coors for marketing as well, and really understanding the three-tier system.
Right.
Came back home and said, hey, I think we can do this better. And in '97 took over marketing. In '00 moved into winemaking, and then hired a consultant in the way of Zelma Long from Simi and Napa.
Okay.
Came up, and she was on board as the consulting winemaker, and literally gave him, as he says, he goes, I was a sponge. You know, she just gave the deep dive, and she just said, you know, with this quality of Bordeaux varietals, this really should be the style that is presented.
Right.
How can you cultivate and maintain a consistent flavor profile that's linked to that? Then he in turn hired a consultant with Claude Gros out of Bordeaux to come over and to also, again, focus on making sure these are wines that have ageability and preserve the quality of expression from vineyard to bottle.
And where is this again?
This is in West Richland. So Tri-Cities.
Tri-Cities,
Yeah,
gotcha.
So you think
And what's
about it.
the latitude comparison to Bordeaux and Tri-Cities? Is it pretty close?
We're north, a little further north.
Okay.
Not a lot,
Okay.
but further north. I mean,
Okay.
you look at more California, northern California is more truly on the latitude line, where I think we're latitude at 46. So just a little bit north. We're California might be a little south. We're a little bit north. The irony is that when you think of Washington wine, everyone thinks of Walla Walla. And Walla Walla is great for a weekend getaway, and some of the best wines, best noted wines from Washington are from there. But the Columbia Valley, such a ginormous AVA.
Huge.
Huge.
It's got sub-AVAs all over.
All over it, yeah. And within it, you get so much character and so much volume and so many sub-AVAs that can really refine to what someone wants. So when you drive to the Tri-Cities, and everyone, of course, jokes about the Tri-Cities, and if you go to the Tri-Cities, you see what the jokes are about. You're like, are we still in Washington? And this is like Arizona meets Nevada.
Yeah.
But there's a river there at
That's
least.
why I call it Yakima, Vegas.
Vegas, Yakistan, yeah, exactly. And but then you look at it, what it means for agriculture, and it's second to none. The whole Columbia Valley, especially as you drop down to the Tri-Cities. And for wine, people talk about Red Mountain. People that aren't familiar with Washington, when they hear Elephant Mountain, Red Mountain, Rocks Vineyard, they lump it all together. Well, Rocks, now you're talking Walla Walla, right?
Yeah.
But Red Mountain, that's Benton City. That's just east of Prosser.
Right.
That's not Walla Walla.
Right.
But it's awesome in itself.
Sure.
And the growing wine regions of Washington far extend Walla Walla. That's not taking anything away from Walla Walla wines. They're absolutely stunning, and a rising tide floats all boats, and I love the fact that Walla Walla is 45 minutes east of us. But all these wines represent vineyards that are really based just north and northwest of the Tri-Cities, which also leads back to Jerry Bookwalter, who in 1975 moved from the San Joaquin Valley for a job in viticulture with Sagemore Vineyards, at that point out of the Tri-Cities, and was largely responsible for not only planting but managing Sagemore Vineyard, Bacchus Vineyards, Dionysus, and then Connor Lee, all of which
Are notorious
vineyards for excellent fruit propagation.
Yeah.
And
Their name precedes them. Yeah.
Truly. So, the Bookwalter family came from 10 generations of farming. His father graduated from UC Davis in '63, moved to Washington in 75. The rest of the family moves up in 76, and they stayed.
Yeah.
John grew up in Dionysus Vineyard. So these are wines that he understands from the dirt to the bottle, which is really pretty exciting. As we jump from the next wine into Double Plot, which is 100% Carnarvon Vineyard,
Right.
you're going to notice a massive flavor profile change.
Wow.
You know,
Having tasted that, I may have pleaded a little bit with Edward. Can we try that Double Plot again? Because it's sensational. Did this winery always was called J. Bookwalter? Or
yeah,
was
it started as Bookwalter,
Okay, that's
then evolved into J. Bookwalter.
Because the reason I was going to ask, if it was J. Bookwalter after Jerry, what if they named John Bill? That would have screwed everything up.
But he was born before they moved to Washington.
There you go.
And I think it's kind of cool because there's Jerry, there's Jean, John's mom, and then there's John. And the great thing is, I came on to them very recently, but Gretchen and John, it's so family organized. There's essentially 13 people in the winery, the bulk of which are married to or with the name Bookwalter as part of the title. The fact that John has been doing this now, we're now in our 40th year. Jerry started the winery in 1983. I have the luxury of being able to be a part of blending and tasting and looking at component samples and vineyard samples as they come in, with Chance Cruzen, our winemaker, and John overseeing all winemaking. John's mind is almost photographic when it comes to being able to go, I know this lot, I know that lot, I know that lot.
It's just not fair.
Yeah, I know the last 15 vintages, no, the last 25 vintages.
Yeah.
And I know why we're sourcing this and what oak we're gonna marry it to. It's not rolling the dice.
No.
I mean,
no.
there's kind of there's a romance and a luxury that the artist, the winemaker is an artist, which is cool.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a backbone of science if you want it to be consistent and if you want it to be good.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the goal. It's not kind of the goal, that is the goal at Bookwalter.
So what's the price point of this first Chardonnay?
Great question. So the first Chardonnay looking at about $18.99 for the reader's shop.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our friends down at Bottle Joy, because we need to switch out one of the shards to the correct shard. Am I right about that?
That's perfect.
So Kurt Grady and Joy Grady, who own Bottle Joy, is the reason that we're doing this today, because Kurt connected Edward and myself. And it seems like only yesterday we talked for the first time, and here we are recording.
That's pretty awesome.
And I love that. So when we come back, we're going to get into Double Plot Chardonnay.
Excellent. Yeah.
Oh, welcome back. Man, we are having fun here with Edward Holmes of J. Bookwalter, and he has called an audible, which will be fantastic on account of, we're going to taste through an extra wine. So, we just got done with the readers.
We did, and in fact,
Chardonnay.
readers are still in this.
Saying, mine was
Yep,
okay.
same glass. So just give it a quick go.
So this is still the readers.
Yep.
Oh, you read.
Yep. Just revisit.
Oh, these are going side by side with the double plot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just revisit the readers just for a second. Just get that mouthfeel, a little sensory aspect to it, and then we're going to jump into our 2021 Double Plot Chardonnay. Double Plot Chardonnay. This is, to me, Chardonnay out of Washington's always kind of been an orphan. There's no real defined flavor profile for Chardonnay out of Washington. We have some excellent Chardonnays being produced in Washington, but there isn't like a defined flavor profile. Like you find like, oh, that's a Sonoma Chard. Oh, that's a Russian River Chard. Oh, that's a Santa Barbara Chard. You have a little bit more creativity. People trying to still figure out what's really going to be like.
It is a Washington Chard.
Yeah. Connor Lee Vineyard, I think, probably produces some of the highest quality and consistency of Chardonnay out there, and we've been making one for a very long time. This is 100% Connor Lee Chardonnay, 100% French oak for fermentation and for aging. Whole cluster press, surly aged for 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
So what you get out of this,
Not overly up
and that's the beauty of knowing your fruit. You can be judicious in the use of oak by marrying second or third or even neutral use oak with new French oak. But you can be heavy-handed depending upon what's coming in versus acid. So this has got a beautiful pH to it. It's got nice high acid, bright, beautiful flavors. The oak that we're using complements those fruit flavors. So you get that almost like, have you ever grilled coconut? I'm not coconut, grilled pineapple?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome, eh?
Hey, just like the other coconut being grilled.
Sure.
Although it melts.
Yeah, it does melt. And maybe it's a little tricky. And it doesn't taste nearly as Chardonnay-like as I'd like to. But, the beauty of pineapple is it's got that wonderful, juicy, tropical expression. Then if you mix in a little Meyer lemon, a little Asian pear, now you're getting the combination of fruit, which is your Chardonnay, marrying with some of the spice that you pull out of oak tannin and oak aging. That marrying should be seamless, and the longer it sees, both in bottle and in oak, should create a better quality expression. So this, nothing to yammer in. Let's start.
Hashtag. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, we can do that. I'm getting a little concrete egg in this too.
You might think you are,
Ah!
but you're not.
Oh, damn it. The mouthfeel on this is extraordinary, though. I was making it up concrete egg because I thought this one had 25% concrete egg.
No, we have concrete egg in the winery, and we use it for a number of different expressions. Double pot is not one of them.
Gotcha.
But it's near.
Maybe I was just getting the air terroir.
The airwar.
The airwar.
The airwar. I've heard
We just coined. So our assistant, well, I thought she coined Valent Wines Day. She didn't. I found it on Instagram. There was under 100 hashtag or 100 posts with that hashtag. But airwar, I believe we may have come on to something.
I think the French call it Clement. But I think airwar would work really well. But what I love about this is it's got that beautiful, deeply expressive Chardonnay characteristic. This is also a wine that ages elegantly. So we haven't released the 2021 yet. I brought it out so we could show simultaneously the style of what you see from our readers, being 80% Chard, 20% Viognier, all stainless steel. Then against what our winemaking team does with something that's very traditional in the standard old world style of making Chardonnay.
Yeah, this is definitely an old world style. Oh, which one?
This is
The second?
Readers.
That's
The readers.
Because we're going to compare these two, right?
That's right. So the next one, it's about time someone kept this on track.
Yeah, well, on the way over, Shelley's like, are we going to have another long one? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I love comparative tasting. To taste and contrast is to understand both consistency of winemaking and what you're getting out of vintage. 2021 is a really warm vintage, very small yield for production. So you're going to see a lot of wineries are short on 2021 production and yield. I think the 2021 wines are showing magnificently. When you start getting 2021 reds, they're going to knock your socks off. But this is a really cool opportunity to go back a year previous and taste 2020. Same exact regimen, 8 months on oak versus 10.
Okay, so there's a little different.
A little bit.
What I was going to say is it's kind of good we're doing on the front end of this, so our palates aren't completely blasted, to be able to get those finer nuances.
Yeah.
Are these 100%?
100% Chardonnay.
Nice. I
So
really...
why the decision, you explained it a little bit, but why on this one, 2 months less?
That's a question. I'm not a winemaker. I'm just luckily the guy that gets to paraphrase what those geniuses do. I know the palate of John and what Chance is producing is going for a consistency of marrying acid to oak, so the complexity of Connolly vineyard shows through. So I'm assuming that they looked at it and they thought, we can go ahead, we can extend this time surly, because they're all aged surly in oak, versus what we have in this particular vintage.
Can you explain surly?
So surly aging is keeping it in contact with usually loosely determined as spent yeast cells, but what we'll often do is actually keep it in contact with the complete cluster. So it's
So
including
you're going to stems and the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, actually there's a great podcast with David Rainey, who's a godfather of California Chardonnay, if you ask me, where he was actually going back and putting stems back in to a barrel post-fermentation to try to extract a deeper kind of guts and flavor when they're coming through it. And I think what you see now is with extended surly aging, you get a more complex, more round flavor profile. This is 100% malolactic fermentation as well, or we don't allow readers to go into malolactic fermentation. We want to preserve that bright, clean, crisp acidity.
So it's interesting. This is off air, but we'll bring it on air. Edward, you said that you would listen to one of the Old World versus New World episodes that we did on Chardonnay in this particular one. What we found is on Old World, they are really restricted in so much of what they do. Right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
New World, less restrictions. We talk about the grape, less about the terroir. Terroir always comes into play, no matter what. But there are rules in Old World, not as many in New World. You have 75% to call it Chard or whatever it is, right? But so the fact that Rainey puts the stems back in, who would think to do that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That was, and he started doing that post UC Davis because he was looking for a way to go, okay, what are the French doing that weird and missing?
Right.
And I was just remember listening to that and thinking, whoa, the owner of Elise Vineyards, if you ever had Elise, like more Sudis, Infidel, crazy ass Petite Syrahs, big Napa Reds, gorgeous wines, really cool. That's the name of the owner. Anyways, but his whole point was doing the same thing to the point where he would like dry canes, like take rootstock canes and then put them back into the, almost like toast them and then put them back in the barrel. So you're now getting root cane body and flavor versus
such a small nuance.
But still, I mean, the thought of doing it.
All right.
I mean, yeah, and then you look at that element of detail versus the element of detail where people are going, I want to make 10,000 cases of X. I'm going to buy bulk juice here, bulk juice there, bulk juice here, which, by the way, is the majority of most wine we drink.
Sure. And that, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. It's the difference between a person that says, I'm really into cars. I can have maybe $1 million on McLaren is worth it. Versus the person that goes, hey, I'm really into cars, and man, that car for $25,000 is 8 years old, goes like a rape date, I'm just going to buy it and drive the hell out of it.
Right.
You know, but they're both awesome,
right. Yeah.
and both are right.
That's
And I think that's one of the great things about wine is there's so much diversity within it. Largely, it comes down to what are you willing to spend, and then what do you expect for what you're spending.
And the whole idea behind our podcast is try to find wines that have awesome QPR. Does that mean that we don't have $80 and $100 wines that we actually feature? Nope, it doesn't mean that at all. Quality to price ratio.
Yeah.
Okay? You can have an $80 wine. Oh, let's talk about that, Shelley. Yesterday we had a Chateauneuf de Pape that blew our faces off. It was Valentine's. Oh, by the time no, I can say this. Valentine's of this week, we had a Chateauneuf de Pape that was unbelievable. It's a $70 bottle of wine retail, and it was worth every penny.
That's so cool. Man,
And so, awesome. But you're gonna find some that are $50, $60. We did a head-to-head Chardonnay with Anderson Con Valley Chardonnay, $60 Chardonnay, and J. Lord Seca.
Aurora Seca.
Aurora
Oh
Seca,
yeah, great bottle of Chardonnay.
And by the way,
And then we got the Jaguar.
well, I could certainly taste the quality difference between the two. It's not that, it's like a difference. That's all it is a difference.
Jaguar's a little more bitey.
But was it 4 times better than the Jaguar?
See, you know, but
And that's what wine consumers are going to think about.
we have the luxury of speaking to that in this forum, right?
Right.
And the thing that we want to mitigate is when the consumer goes to the shelf or goes to the wine shop, what their expectation is. And I can tell you, and you just defined it, my expectation at $18 is a whole lot different than at $68.
Yeah, you were damn right. If you're paying $68 for a bottle of wine, it better deliver at least at that level.
100%.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things why, you know, why I love being able to show these two Chardonnays. One, they're completely different animals in winemaking, in sourcing, in style. And they're also two dramatically different price points. For readers coming in from $16.99 to $18.99, double plot is $28.99 to $32.99. Yeah.
So, you can taste the difference between the two.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely taste the difference. Shelley, what do you think between the 20 and the 21? This is gonna, so you listening to see that, you that are watching it, you saw Edward use his glass as a dump bucket.
Which is okay.
Which is, I guess.
Hey, trust me, I'm trying to learn moderation as I get older.
No, don't do that. So,
I'm not doing a very good job of it, but I'm trying.
The 21. I can taste the Washington terroir in there.
Nice.
I can't explain what it is. I can taste that. And then this one that's a year older, it's a little wild, right?
It is a little quieter, isn't it? It doesn't have as much, it's not as bright, which might come from age, but I think it's actually indicative of the actual, of the wine itself. Ritzville loam over basalt. You know, we are so blessed with the quality of soil composition that we have throughout the Columbia AVA, where we have an abundance of water. To dry farm is rare because the soil composition that we have, water doesn't stay in at all. We have very little clay. We have a lot of rock. But we have this beautiful water source that, you know, John laughs, and I couldn't agree more. When Canada stops getting snow, we'll stop getting water, and that's going to be a really big problem for everybody. But luckily, we have this abundant water source.
Yeah.
So we can irrigate sparingly to ensure the perfect.
because you want to stress the grapes, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that grapes grow the best in difficult growing conditions is that stress makes them work hard.
It's so counterintuitive.
Sure.
You want to drink up, you guys. But no, man, that's not where the roots have got to go deep.
Well, the
and
other thing,
search.
you don't want that much water because what you want is you want concentration of acid and sugar. You don't want. Yeah, you don't want mushy grapes. You don't want, you know, those big, beautiful grapes that you love to eat.
I like those huge strawberries.
Oh yeah, with no taste. Yeah.
100%. So, you know, when you look at a really hot vintage, you have lower yield, berry size is small. The vines, and the vines have been stressed deeper.
Yeah.
And as a result, you usually get a higher quality wine that goes along with it. So I think this 2021, you know, all the wines, you mentioned Rick Small earlier, his wines, I think there's very few Washington winemakers that make quality wines that can age elegantly. Rick Small is definitely one.
It was a coup that we got on when we had to walk away. Those that have listened to this podcast in the past know the story all too well. I'm not going to repeat it because it makes me really sad and my stomach hurt. But we will get his daughter on, and we will do Woodward Canyon again. And we are going to nail it this time. Rick Small is pretty much the same as Robert Mondavi's Napa. Leonetti's in there as well, but they were best friends too. So you're talking Leonetti 1 with Canyon number 2. And these guys are pioneers in Washington.
Sure. Then you bring in McColl, Cubs. Then you bring in, you know, Rich Funk out of Savaya. I mean, you have now the old guard, and then of course, let's not forget Amavi Pepper Ridge. You know, I mean, you now have a history of winemaking, the bulk of which Jerry Bookwalter sold grapes to early on, including Thickens, including the Kamal, where we sold, because they realized the quality of fruit that was coming out of Sagemore, that was coming out of Bacchus, that was coming out of Connerly Vineyard, and Dionysus.
You mentioned Nicole. We're going to have them on episode 154. We have winemaker Marcus Raffanelli.
Oh, sweet. Do you know what wine you guys taste?
No. Oh, yes, I do. It's going to take me a little time to
We
find
already
it.
have them, don't we?
Yes, we
Oh, yes,
do.
we do.
We already have them. They're lying down.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you have that Chenin, you should go ahead and drink right into that and have them bring some more, because Chenin Blanc is one of the varietals out of Washington that Washington does exceptionally well. There's precious little of it out there, and very few guys make it. But if you want a wine that is affordable geek splendor, Chenin in Washington is it. I mean, Semillon out of Washington also, as we all know, is excellent.
They
And
used to
Reed-
make a Chenin Blanc in Temecula,
Oh, really?
but they don't have that winery down there anymore. But it was a really good Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc is such a fun, expressive grape that goes really well with food. It's a wonderful kind of crossover grape for the consumer that doesn't want a Chardonnay, doesn't like Pinot Gris, doesn't know about Picpoul, that wants to find something that's that's going to be kind of exciting and cool, and we grow it very well in
If
Washington.
we have anything to say about it, Picpoul will be a trending wine soon. It's such a great value, such a great wine, and we have featured a couple of them on this podcast.
Cool.
Yeah. So my quick thoughts on this
Yep.
is I actually am enjoying the 21 a little more than the 20. The 20 has like a lot more in-depth nose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that makes sense. It's been in the bottle an extra year.
Yep, sure.
You know?
It's able to integrate. The acid's kind of incorporating, kind of
It's-
subsiding.
And it is softer. I was getting more flavor out of that 21, but honestly, it's interesting. We're talking about two of the same wines. Yes, one's on 10 months, one's on 8 months, and you've got the difference of the vintage. But there are differences between these two.
Yeah.
And both are outstanding in their own right, which I'm just enjoying the crap out of.
But one of the great things about wines, let's not be too precious. It's an agricultural product.
I know.
It's going to change every year,
Yeah.
and it's the obligation of the great winemaker to try to mitigate some of the factors that the environment doesn't give us to remain consistent. That's why, we talked earlier briefly about 100% varietal wines and estate fruit wines. All estate fruit wines, that's pretty awesome. It's unicorn tiers.
Yeah.
Less than 1% of wine in the world is 100% estate fruit.
I know.
Make it 100% varietal from an estate, you're now that 1% is getting a little bit more
Sure.
narrow. The beauty of being able to blend multiple varietals together, ensure complexity, consistency, and quality, despite what vintage may provide. We're really fortunate in Washington. Washington has consistent growing.
Yeah.
I think, and again, I'm obviously not a scientist, I'm done with the post. However, I think loosely you can say 1 out of 11 years in California might be considered bad. 1 out of 7 in Washington can be a real challenge. In Oregon, 1 out of 3 or 4 years is tough.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Washington continues to be acknowledged as probably one of the world's best
Yeah.
growing regions. And especially for Bordeaux varietals, although Syrah crushes it. I love the Sangiovese and Nebbiolo coming out of Washington now.
And the Carmenere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many cool
Yeah.
things being planted and great things that wonderful winemakers are getting behind. It's awesome. But I'll be perfectly honest. I'm born and raised in Washington, cut my teeth in Washington wine in the 80s. Merlot drives the bus for red varietals in Washington State. And everyone's, oh, I hate Merlot. Well, if you didn't watch that stupid movie
Sideways,
then you wouldn't be so ignorant.
And it is
Or,
Bordeaux.
yeah, that's
It's one of the noble grapes.
Truly.
Yeah.
And I think, and Washington makes it very, very well. Which leads us to the next wine. I purposely brought these from my house. It's a Chardonnay glass, so it channels the aroma to your nose. And I think one of the things, one of the things I think is so cool about conflict. So conflict's 50. I'll tell you about it in a second.
We're pouring comparison Merlots.
Merlot glass.
Merlot glass.
Okay.
So we're doing, this is featuring our 2020 Reader's Merlot. 2020 Reader's Merlot. This is just going to be released probably in the next 4 to 5 weeks.
45 weeks.
4 to 5 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks. And I brought our Reader's Merlot as opposed to our Reader's Cab. Our Reader's Cab just got 46 in the Wine Spectator Top 100, and it's absolutely delicious. It's wonderful. But I, again, just think that Washington Merlot should carve a niche in the world of wine, and I think this is one that truly does it.
Can we just say you just glossed over that? Just kind of like John Bookwalter. Yeah, you like that Chardonnay? Yeah, we have fun with it. Yeah, it's yeah. So the Cabernet Sauvignon from Jim Bookwalter, the Reader's, just 46 and Wine Spectator top 100. So I guess that we're pretty happy with that.
In the last 10 years, I get the Spectator and I get the Enthusiast. I get all the wine rags. So I just like to kind of scan through them, right?
It's
They
really
don't like
good.
simulate giant enhancement.
Well, they certainly do for your wines, but I get them just to kind of see what else is happening out there,
Sure.
what the consumer's seeing as well. And there was a period, and actually that period's ongoing, where there'd be a review of Washington wines, and there'd be John. And again, I've known John for 15 plus years. John's not taking out ads in the Spectator. He's not wine and dining, insert name of reviewer here. But he was coming in.
Bob Parker, we're like this. That's why I call him Bob.
But I would open up and I'd scan to the back and I'd go down and go, holy shit, he got a 92 and 93. These wines are wines that are marrying quality to expectation and to what the people are beginning to understand the truly is representative of Washington Bordeaux varietals.
This has got such a good nose on it that
Yeah.
I have yet to taste it. So it's a hashtag cheersing. Let's do it up.
Cheers. And I hadn't actually had a chance to see what the marrying. Okay, so this is 25% Merlot, 20 Cab, 5% Malbec for readers.
This is 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Malbec, which of course is a varietal that people are truly embracing. Washington's coming into its own for producing great Malbec. Great Malbec primarily is a blending grape, and that's certainly what we use Malbec for. It gives a little bit of color, it gives a little bit of intensity, and it marries next to some of that kind of plum, fruit-forward balance that our Merlot has. And then 25% Cab just brings in a little bit of that tannin. And the key is, I think long since gone are the days where people go, ooh, a young Cabernet has green bell pepper and stewed fruit. No, those are purisans. Those aren't qualities of a fine Cabernet. Those are flaws from picking fruit too young. Where the phenolic compounds, the base of tannin, picking at the zenith of ripeness eliminates those purisans. So you get a quality fruit expression of layers of tannins without that vegetal component. That being said, we want the higher tannin content of Cab to give it a little toothiness, but we still have this beautiful, round, rich red wine that finishes elegantly, marries well with food, but it's perfectly delicious just on its own.
I may have asked Lane Hewitt, or maybe not asked, but commented on. I never quite understood the whole thing about if you get green bell pepper or bell pepper at all in a Cabernet, that makes it bad. So listen to that question in a couple weeks, because we have a completely different conversation about that, but it's interesting that that is a sign of the fruit being picked too young.
It can be, and again, you know, it's a kind of gross generalization, but I would say that when you first jump into a cab and you go, ooh, that bright bell pepper, that's a characteristic, but it doesn't mean that it's great. Yeah, you know, and everyone's palate is a little bit different.
Oh, for sure.
I think, you know, the move towards focusing on phenolic compounds and phenolic development and true ripeness, peak ripeness, marrying acid, sugar, seed advancement, is really where you start getting to the characters of what makes a great red wine. And also, what do you do with it? Are you using hard pressed fruit? Are you using free run juice? Free run juice, man, that changes the flavor component of wine dramatically versus second, third, or fourth pressed wine. In hard pressed wine, now you're pulling out all those flavonoids that are coming from skin, stem, and seeds. Stems and seeds, who likes them? Nobody. But the key is that, you know, what that does is that just adds or pulls away from that fruit forward component that you get in red wine.
So the free run is when you let the weight of the grapes.
True. You're just breaking the skin. You're breaking the skin and you're allowing that nectar to really pour out.
The first shot of juice, and you're still gonna press them.
You're pressing to a couple of atmospheres, so you're just managing to extract the juice.
Yeah.
And then you allow that to sit in contact with the skins, with whole cluster, depending upon your press style. And then that's where you develop that flavor profile that comes through.
That's so cool. And I think my whole point behind the comment about the bell pepper in cab.
And wasn't that with the Petit Verdot that he was mentioning
We didn't even really get that. It was brought up, and I never understood that. But this is what I'm coming to find out, is that bell pepper, when you see it in a Zinfandel or something like that, is actually a good thing. But because if you're going to pick the fruit correctly at the right time, which is checking the bricks and you're doing all that stuff the right way, and you pick it at the optimum time, even if it's 2:30 in the morning, where it is, right? And you are harvesting, you are not going to get that, but you're going to get something much better in lieu of that, because the fruit is picked at the right time.
You know, and once you clip a cluster, and this certainly is really important for wines, once you clip a cluster, oxidization begins to start.
Yeah.
You know, the reason why most people are harvesting at night is that if you're doing it right, you're harvesting usually when it's still warm out, right? And as the evening cools, your acid begins to, you know, as we all know, that the whole series of down will shift. But picking when it's cooler does a couple of things. Makes it a heck of a lot easier on your staff. Mm-hmm. Two, you're also adding an element of preservative to your fruit. Versus if you're picking it when it's 90 degrees out, that fruit's beginning to spoil the second that you flip it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
exactly right.
The utilization of chilling tubes or tunnels in California wine as a way to preserve acidity in white wines is common use. But picking it night is just a great way to get yourself a couple extra hours to get it in the prep.
I mean, if you start like at midnight, 1 o'clock, and
that?
it's
Maybe
not,
just 6 o'clock.
well, no, but it's
It
gonna
needs to be
take-
cold, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be chillier, and it's not going to, when that sun starts coming up, the heat starts coming, and you get that fruit where it needs to be before it sees that heat, and you're way ahead of the process.
Way ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all, again, it's natural, it's organic. You're not having to throw it in a cooling tank, which costs money and everything.
Sure. You're allowing your atmosphere to do some of the work for you.
Which, why would
Why
you
wouldn't
know? Shelley, what do you think of this 2020 Reader's Merlot that we've had in the past? I love it so much we get it again.
I love it. Very delicious.
I think this is an awesome wine. I think you taste this in a year or two,
Even better.
it will blow you away.
You know,
This year is which?
this is 20. This will be coming to market most likely right around May. So this is something that, again, because we're trying the 2020 conflict, which is predominantly 52% Merlot, I want to be able to kind of do, again, a little bit of a comparison also when it comes to sourcing. Whereas conflict is Connery, Dionysus, and excuse me, 96 Elton Mountain and Connolly, 46% Connolly. So now you begin to get that cultivation of a particular source. When we move into the second line, which is comp of 2020. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you and try the two side by side.
And how are you going to taste them side by side?
Oh man!
Oh, me?
Turn your back on him for a second.
Oh, I
well,
know.
luckily there's a full bottle right there.
Well, I just drank the 2020 readers.
Yes, but we're
And-
doing that.
Okay. Well,
So can
Nope. Well, you just drank the 23. Yeah, you're right.
okay.
Good.
You guys scaring the crap out of me.
So you bring up a great point. And one of the things that's challenging, so we're our run rate.
I can't wait to hear the great point I brought up. It happens so seldom.
Is this wine's going to get better in a couple of years?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things.
So it's a little tight. It does taste young. It's
It
3
is.
years old, but technically it's 2.5 years old, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it, right? Because we're just at the front end of 2023. So this is basically a 2-year-old wine. So it's still young.
Sure.
It's still a little tight, but it's still got, you can tell the depth there.
Yeah, one of the great things, and our 19 cab is a wine that actually is delicious upon opening. Second day, better. And these are things as we know as consumers.
Yeah.
If it's you open it, you have a couple of glasses, you wait the next day, you finish, you go, wow, that's really good. That's a wine that probably is going to be really good 2 or 3 years in cellar. Which is
you
great.
at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, at least 2 or 3. That's a great hit for something that's under $20 retail.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are most of the wines that we have tried so far, or in general with J. Bookwalter, are they built to drink right away, or are they built to lay down?
Great question. All of our wines are built to be readily approachable upon release. I can tell you personally, they benefit with 2 to 7 years of age. And here's the thing, and again, I've known John for a long time, and I still will dig something out of my cellar. Like I'll bring like a 09 Conflict or a Chapter 4, which is our legacy wines that are released from the winery. These are wines that he doesn't even have the winery anymore, and they are showing stunning.
Not even in the library?
If someone wants to buy them, we have a job to sell them. His personal library probably long since drank.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
John and Gretchen are awesome people, and we're in the business of making wine, so we love saving it. And we have a deep library, especially for people who want to come to our restaurants
Sure.
and enjoy or come to our tasting rooms. So, as a member of our book club, our wine club, you can come in and you can go do a retrospective. Of vintages that are similar, or here's a taste and compare, right?
And your restaurant is called Fiction, right?
Yeah, it's called Fiction. Yeah, and
Everything is,
it was the original winery.
Oh.
So we've got Fiction, Double Plot, Book Club,
Conflict.
Bookwalter.
You're noticing a literary reference to the whole thing.
You consider yourself dumb as a post.
Completely.
I'm dumb as concrete. So the light went off. Bing.
And you think about it,
Trust me out.
No, I mean, I wanted to make sure we brought that up as the literary thing, but every step we're taking, there's another, shall I say, chapter to that model.
Absolutely. And this is one of
Came up with that one.
and this is one of the great things that keeps everything kind of integral to itself. And far from being trite, it's a theme. It's related to family. It's related to the family name, and it's a consistent theme that we like to see through the tiers of our expressions. Our entry tier, which is a great value. We talked about quality to price ratio. Our notebook tier, which John had been wanting to do forever, and then finally released it, which was a vertical and horizontal approach to winemaking. So multiple vintage, multiple varietals.
Yeah.
Now we're actually moving that towards a vintage play, because people weren't gravitating towards the multi-vintage thing. They're like, and at the price point, no one really cared.
They're buying it to drink that night.
That's 100%.
Or they're buying it to bring to this party and say, we brought our wine, or here's a gift, and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And might I just say that I just got done saying this is still a little tight and young. You opened these wines probably, I'm guessing, 15, 20 minutes before we arrived for the recording. So it was aerating or opening, in this little itty bitty opening.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's been in the glass,
It changes.
it
markedly,
has
right?
changed quite substantially.
You know, I still think when the next three wines, Conflict, which is in glass, Protagonist, and Suspense, what we consider our white label or signature tier of wines. These are wines that we're drinking super youthful. I mean, these wines have just been released in the last 2-3 months, and they really, to me, are the backbone of what Bookwalter Wines are all about. I would take a beer pitcher and just dump it in and aerate. I mean, there's no pretty way of aerating. You want to get a little sexier? Take a tea ball. Tea if you're actually if you're steeping tea, pour it through that, aerate. All you want to do is get oxygen to it, to accelerate oxidization, to enjoy it same day out. But these wines are youthful enough that you might want to do that.
This is the problem with our society. We want things now.
You like
Why
to put
don't
it in
you?
glass,
Why
take
don't
one,
you
and
enjoy
then-
that bottle of wine for an hour and the life of aerating it and opening up is what I like to do. But I mean, there are lots of tools out there. We have the one that starts with a B that you stick down and goes,
Yeah.
right? There's that, yeah, and then we also have a Vinlock system, which is a slow wine preservation, slow decanting. I mean, you can actually
I already
decant.
have a couple of decanters on.
Yeah, but
I have a heavy hand and a keg cup sometimes, and that tends to work really well too.
I like the beer pitcher idea.
It works great.
we saw
And
something.
it's a hell of a lot easier to clean than a decanter.
We saw something on TikTok. Just throw your wine in a blender and take it.
Yeah.
Not-
I was like, wow, that's weird.
Not gonna do that. Sorry. You want an
I
area?
suppose you could.
You're gonna take a wine that's gonna over the hill and down, all in one.
The ninja blender.
The ninja blender.
area.
Yeah, throw some crushed ice in there. The hard pours are what we do all the time as at least a quick aeration. Yeah? So you put it in the wine, just like boom, you're upside down,
Splash.
and then
Yep.
and so it's a hard pour, and that really helps that process along.
For Bordeaux
you know?
for young Bordeaux varietals, absolutely. I wouldn't take that same approach for Pinot Noir. Because you're talking about a much sexier,
Yeah.
prettier, more fragile, if you will, grape.
Yeah, sure.
But for these wines, beat them up a little bit. And
Beat them up,
just
yeah.
get a little air into them. That being said, I feel like I love your refined approach, which is take the time, drink it over a couple hours.
It's really, in this is one man's opinion, or immature man's opinion. This is a part of we live in a culture where it's like, alcohol's 15%? Yeah. No, it's hot. And I understand Washington wines, and these could be 15% wines. Maybe not the shards, but there's something to be said for taking a stop and smell the roses, or in this case, not stop and smell the wine. 13.5 on the
13.8 for double pot, 13.5 for readers. You're now getting to 14.8 to 15
Okay.
for the next three wines that we're tasting. They're
we
big
see in
wines.
Washington, yeah.
And the Chateauneuf is 60.
60% on the Chateau.
What vintage was it?
18.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're
I've never
looking
seen a
for
60.
we're looking for more of that. Not because of the alcohol, though we did finish the bottle
Don't tell.
Where'd you find that bottle?
at the wine library in New Jersey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we did. So we are also in the midst of a new series, Wine Clubs, which last week we did part one, which was Wine Library, which is the Gary V Wine Club. We did Empathy, which is a Gary. You know Gary Vaynerchuk?
Okay.
Yeah. So long story. We're not gonna do it. So his Empathy line, and then we did a wine from Eternal Wine out of the incubator project in Walla Walla. And so and talked about those wine clubs. And we're gonna do Bottle Joy, we're gonna do Coeur d'Alene Fresh, all of our basically our sponsors and our relationships. We're gonna feature their wine clubs with some of their wines.
Bottle Joy is such a
It's
great. I mean, we are so lucky between Studio 107, Bottle Joy, Dinner Party, the number of really well thought through wine shops in a small town. Oh, Scott!
Oh.
Are you kidding me? Love what Chris and Robbie are doing. That place is awesome.
And by the way, we've said this, these guys are, yes, they're competitors, but their personality is such that everyone's going to be different.
100%.
And that's why we're really going to feature some of these wine clubs and the wines that you get from it. They force you to try different wines.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
They're not really forcing.
Well, they kind
They're
of
creating the opportunity, encouraging it very well.
we've mentioned this before. We have a friend that's like, I only drink Cabernet Sauvignon. Like, great. Keep that down and narrow there, boy. Yeah, let us drink the rest of them. You know, Cabernet Sauvignon, great, love it, fantastic. There are other wines out there.
100%.
There are other wines.
And as a guy that's in the wine business, and again, as much of a consumer as I am an advocate and a seller thereof,
Yeah.
I love nothing more than going to a great wine shop and asking, hey, what's good? And
what do you got for me?
And Chris has done that since she was, following her through her local career.
Yeah.
She always has an opinion and she has great taste. And you find that. I mean, I love talking to Tom at Studio 171. He's a great guy. And two, he's always got something cool. It's
He's
like
got a palate like mine, so
It's
the
awesome.
wines that he chooses, I'm like, oh, they're good.
And then we back it up with the Godfather, Sam Lang at Beverly's, who is one of my favorite people in the entire world, for the very reason of going in and going, hey, I want to try something pretty cool from insert here.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'll be right back. And next thing you know, he comes back and he's got something, and it's always cool, and always good, and always fun. And, and it's rare to be in any environment that is active and engaged and such a great proponent
Yeah.
and inclusive.
And by the way, Sam is getting unbelievable press from us for his new venture, Lola's.
Oh, I know. How cool is that going to
So
be?
cool.
Eh?
Sam has been a guest on our podcast 3 times now. He almost begs to be on it. I'm like, okay, Sam, we can do that.
We tasted this one.
We have not, and we need to before we run out of
Yeah, I know.
juice on our video.
Okay, so this is complex. So this is 52%.
Oh.
Yeah. Pretty good. 52% Connerly Merlot. Then you blend in Dionysus Cap, 32%. Round out with Elephant Mountain Petit Verdot, and then just a splash of Malbec. 2020. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful wine. And the nose on it just goes on forever. It's really a
Oh my goodness. Wow.
See, it's 20 months of French oak, and I want to say 60% new.
Rosé. Well, I would say this is 20 months in 100% French oak.
Mm-hmm. How much new French oak?
70%
Man, see, I'm still
new oak.
Are you reading?
I am. I'm dumb as concrete. No, sorry, dumber than concrete. Drinking window 2022 to 2035. Boy, that's a big window, but I think it's absolutely true.
It is 100% true. I think the next 3 wines that we're going to taste all stand the testament of cellaring. Again, when John hired Zelma along to really kind of talk to what our wine program could be, she brought in an understanding of you need to take what the vineyard offers you and then express that into what you put in the bottle. Jerry knows these vineyards better than anybody. John grew up in these vineyards. We have an understanding of what this fruit can be. And again, like I said before, it's one of the coolest things after 26 years in the wine business to be able to sit at a component tasting with John Bookwalter, with our winemaker, with some of the growers, and we can taste the lots that we've had long-term contacts with, right? And we can taste what we've done with it. And then we taste what the grower themselves are doing with it. And then we might buy from them the blend, or we're just strictly using our own lots. But that's the joy of the chemistry and the artistry of winemaking. And to
So
see
much
that
more
recognition.
into
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We are going to take a break and hear from the social web. And when we come back, we're going to get into some heavy hitters.
Yeah, the last two protagonists, the suspense.
Yeah.
Not to keep it in suspense, but.
Rim shot. All right, welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 148. We've got the last couple wines we're going to taste through from Jay Bookwalter here with Edward Holmes, who has come out of his shell today.
I did a little self-confidence talk earlier today. I started using big words. I'm working my way up to it.
You know, you should use large words.
I try.
Because large is bigger than big.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it. And getting a whole 5-letter word thing, that is awesome. Geez, my daughter will love words like boggle next.
Yeah, right?
So.
Boggle. God, I hate that game.
Well, hopefully you'll love this wine. The next wine
Great segue.
is called Protagonist. And this, at 89% Cabernet, balanced with 6% Syrah, and then 5% Petit Verdot, gives you this really beautiful, that fruit forward characteristic and layered tannin of Cab. The Syrah, I think, really rounds it out nicely. And then we kind of catch a little bit of that kind of linear graphite flavor profile from the Petit Verdot. This also sees 20 months of French oak.
Are you starting to read my notes?
I should. But yeah, again, these three wines, Conflict, Protagonist, and Suspense, truly are what, when people come to Bookwalter, we want them to walk away with remembering. It's awesome to have readers every day. But these are the wines that you go to your cellar and you go, I want a really expressive Merlot-based wine. Or I want something that really captures the essence of Cabernet from the lower Columbia Basin. And that's what you get with something like this.
So, I have a couple questions. I want to do hashtag Jersey. And what's the difference? After you Jersey, you have to take a sip.
Yeah.
What's the difference when it says 20 months, 100% French oak, and 60% new oak?
So that means the balance of 40% is neutral or second use oak. So we're saying that 60% of the oak rate, that's right. Yep.
Gotcha. 100% of the French oak, but 60 of it is new.
Correct.
Gotcha. And then the rest is
Either second or second or third.
That makes
Neutral, yeah.
total sense. Okay.
I always think it's so funny when we use a lot of French oak in other countries and using America.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, a lot of that also, I think, is to the winemaker's preference. I mean, Slovakian, Hungarian, American. There's myriad different oak flavor profiles out there, depending upon the tongue area you use. Also, the size of the barrel. I mean, we have a few 500-liter barrel, 350-liter barrel, and 225. And a lot of that we will use non-toasted heads.
Yeah.
Which again, you think about the exposure to the wine. If you don't have toasted heads, you're reducing the contact point of wine by almost 40%.
I mean, there are barrels, and they have names for these barrels, but some of these barrels are huge.
We call those big ass barrels.
Well, we have big ass wines at home.
Yes.
We have 2 big ass wine glasses. Sorry, big ass wine glasses. Sorry.
But yeah, so the whole world of barrels is something that I wish I had the cerebral capacity to dig into, because it's as interesting and as deep as where you sourced your food from, almost even more so. There's not a ton of tonniers or coopers out there. So you want to find the guys that you really marry to their specialty.
Yeah.
And I mean, barrels are expensive. You're talking up to $2,000-$3,000 for one barrel.
Yeah.
For great French oak.
Yeah, and Americans about $1,000.
Yeah, even into $1,000. Yeah, sure. So I mean, and then you have to amortize that. You use it 3 times, and that's technically neutral. So you're not depending upon the size of the barrel. You have to figure out how you're going to extrapolate that cost out of it.
It's
So
all reverse engineered, isn't it?
So you need to
Yeah.
marry who you want that dollar to go the furthest. You want to make sure that what you're putting into it. So the cool thing, whenever you walk into a barrel, when you're with a winemaker, ask the winemaker the difference between what's this lot of this vineyard in this barrel versus that barrel.
Yeah.
And they will love it.
Yeah.
And it's so worth the tasting because there's nothing more eye-opening for someone that really using the wine to taste the same vintage, same vineyard, 2 different barrels.
Yeah.
It's really
I'll
awesome.
bet.
And again, 90% of people could probably care less.
Well,
However,
I mean,
it tends
the
to
more,
do-
the more you're
yes.
actually tasting through wine, the more nuances you're going to pick up. And we tell people all the time, they're like, so how do I learn about wine? Buy a bottle, pour it in a glass, and drink it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Nope.
We'll do it again the next day.
That was the gentleman, dear family friend, Paul Thomas, was a 7th licensed winemaker in Washington, who's again a very close family friend. That's how I got into wine. I used to have this big kind of Bacchanalian party every year at his winery, and I went when I was 11 the first time. I was really cognizant of it, and I just remember walking through the winery and the smell of caustic, which is a cleanser, oak, fermentation, and just going, wow. And watching
Visualize
this
people.
Yeah, just watching
Yeah.
this party, right? And then I came back to him when I was about 16 years old, and he had this killer house in Woodville, Washington, built in the 1800s, brick log home, and he always had this wicked sidebar full of wine. I mean, 20, 30 bottles of wine, all of them.
Yeah.
And I go there and I go, hey, Paul, I want to learn about wine, and I love it because he didn't even blink an eye. He's like, well, you need to start drinking wine. He didn't even think about the fact that at that point I was like 16 years old. He said, well, hey, that's what you're gonna do.
I mean,
How you-
technically, legally, you can drink the wine, or not drink it, but taste it and spit it.
But here's you want to learn wine, you need to educate yourself in
Yeah.
wine, and when you legally can, you need to get yourself in a position where you can taste it, whatever you can, however you can.
Yeah.
I would recommend being a busboy. At that point, it was Ray's on Shilshole.
Ray's Bookhouse.
Yeah, and he's like, get a job there, or Adriatica, or any number of these kind of old school Seattle restaurants that had great wine lists. And he says, go get a job there. And
Go down to Brooklyn.
and when,
Go to El Gaucho.
and when the reps are coming in and talking with the buyer, see if you can hang on and just read it and expose yourself to as much as you can. So your point is so spot on. How do I learn about wine? Start drinking.
So,
And wine Bible by Karen McNeil.
well, but it's part of the education. So we talked a number. In fact, this is a good segue, Shelley. Next Friday, next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, is Open That Bottle Night 2023.
Oh,
okay. John and Dottie.
Yeah, from the Wall
Love
Street,
by the glass.
from the Wall Street Journal.
Tastings column. They were guests on our podcast last year at this time, talking about how Open That Bottle Night came about. Shelley and I are so into the whole idea of wine and romance, and their story is unbelievable. And their book, Love by the Glass, and Tasting Notes of a Marriage, is an easy read that will educate you not only on wine, but the romance of a relationship.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so good.
Yeah, my significantly better half, Molly, who had a wine bar and knows wine exceptionally well.
SBH.
Significantly better half. Well, I should start calling it that.
SBH. It's like hashtag SBH. If you really want to get into it deep, SBH.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
SBHM.
She has that break out that bottle night, which is she breaks out a bottle. I get home and I go, "Are you kidding me? Did you really open that?"
That's the point of Open That Bottle Night. Because so many times a wine sits there and you're like, oh, we should open it for this event. but we can't
Yes.
open it. It's too good, we can't. And then the wine goes over the hill, and aren't you stupid?
Yes.
So make the wine the occasion. That's open that bottle light, and that's a week from tomorrow. So I kind of talked a little bit about that ahead of time, but here's a good segue, because you're talking about books and learning, and Love by the Glass is a great book. I gave that to my daughter and her husband. They blew through it and they started joining wine clubs. It was fantastic. It's a part of that.
It's a wonderful slippery slope to the world of wine.
Yeah, it really is. So we talked a little bit about Gary Vaynerchuk before he was legal to drink in New York, and he worked at his dad's wine store, wine library. At the time, Discount Wines. He couldn't taste the wines, so he got the Wine Spectator, and he read all these reviews of the wines. This has got a mineral taste. He went and licked rocks.
Sure.
This has got a dirty terroir. He went and put dirt in his mouth.
Please don't tell me about the sheep butt.
Well, so one of the things I love about Gary is that he is not pretentious, and he's like, this Burgundy, I'm getting a little sheep butt in it, and I'm like, Gary, that's exactly it. You have your nose on the sheep's butt, but the whole idea of that, and he was on Conan O'Brien, and tasting through, and he had like a 3 or 4 minute spot, and Gary can do this because he talks very fast, but going through, and they had all this stuff. You had green pepper, dirt, rocks,
Sure.
and Conan's like, what, you eat dirt?
Yep.
You know what, Conan? Put it in your mouth, it'll get, so that, the flavor profiles, strawberry, peach.
Sure.
Right?
Hey, well, I got one for you guys.
Yeah.
Petrol in Riesling. I love Riesling.
But why do we say petrol, right? Because we're in America. Why don't we say gasoline? But that wouldn't be okay.
That's right. Or how about this? Hot summer hose water.
Wow!
Right?
That is so
And you're from Seattle.
Yes. Yeah.
So in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s, everyone's entryway to their split level in suburban Seattle
70s home.
was slate, right? And if you had your door open on the odd day that it got over 85 degrees,
It happens in July 29.
yeah, exactly.
You laugh, but you know what I'm saying.
Do I ever?
If you ever want to plan a party in Seattle, July 29.
That's right.
To the
To the
my
end-
knowledge,
Until
no one's had
October.
rain.
Because if you want to make sure it's going to be wet, make it July 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
There you go.
But a slate floor or a slate patio with fresh rain on it, and whenever you hear someone talk about the slate characteristic of wine, that is a aroma and a flavor that immediately, because your olfactory system's all integrated, right? So you smell something and you understand the flavor profile of it. But that wet slate,
Yeah.
that's linked to the entryway of my parents' house.
I mean,
As a kid.
but-
Kind of like a frog thing.
Yes, it's exactly that. And what happens is we can only pull from our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We only know what we know.
Yeah, we haven't tasted a lot of the tropical fruits like the walnuts.
Well, you know, I would highly recommend whenever you have the chance, go on vacation, do somewhere tropical, and
Did you say vacation?
yeah. Well, I mean, aside from the permanent vacation that we're on,
Yeah, there
but guava, mango, lychee are fruits that you have to taste because they're overused in the world of wine tasting. But when you taste it, they immediately go, oh, that's it, star fruits number, right?
Yeah, I have not had that.
Yeah, when you have the opportunity to go, oh, that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So whenever you have the opportunity to expose yourself to components that people use in tasting comparisons,
Yeah.
do it.
And by the way,
So I
everybody
pick up
should be doing
licorice
it.
in a lot of things because when I was little, we always ate black jelly better. So I
There's
pick up licorice everywhere.
a Waterbrook
Yeah, some
So
young
no
black
block.
water.
has a little bit of
Anisette?
Anise, yeah.
Anise, yeah. So and anise is such a strong flavor, and when it comes through in certain capacities, it's delicious and it's stunning and it's almost palate standing, which in some cases can be really kind of cool. I think one of the things that I love about this Protagonist is for as big as it is, it has a little bit of that supple nature, that red on black kind of meaty fruit of the Syrah that makes it immediately approachable.
Well, it's got Syrah in there, yeah.
Yes, 6%.
Yeah, exactly.
And this
Yeah.
wine will just continue to develop.
Yeah.
It's got Great Lakes too, by the way. Got batteries later.
which might be the way, and I feel I hate to say this out loud, but that probably is more to do with whether our glasses are dirty or clean or alcohol content.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And this is a lot. This is 15%.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we can talk about this all the time. It's like, look at the legs on that. It doesn't have anything to do with quality.
no,
But it's fun to watch.
It is
and it's
fun.
fun to say.
It's
and
like travels well.
Travels
That
well.
doesn't mean you put it in your suitcase and it comes out together.
hey, every suit that I bought that supposedly travels well has never
Traveled well.
No.
You know what? Here's a hack. When you're traveling, wear the suit that you want. Don't pack it, wear it. That's,
I couldn't agree more. I do that with shoes. Like
by the way, then you're traveling in style too. You show well.
you know, it's the same thing. And when you travel well, you live well.
I can't disagree with I can't agree with you more. While you're
So
pouring,
blazing through these.
yeah,
Blazing through these next ones.
While you, we're going to keep you in suspense for the next wine,
But
which is. Thank you for the rim shot. I wanted to just mention real quick the Greatest Song You Never Heard podcast. Wine word of the week this week is sulfites.
Most misunderstood word in wine.
Yeah, why don't you? Can we talk about that?
Well, let's see. It's real simple. First and foremost, sulfites are integral to all wine. Sulfite in the base level, chemically,
Yeah, but get rid of it.
it's a byproduct.
biological-
It's a byproduct of yeast fermentation.
Yeah.
So, and that's a very, very small amount, a trace amount that's found in wine. One of the big things that catches people's eyes about sulfites is that in the United States and in Australia in particular, you have to put on the label if you're over, I think it's 50 milligrams of sulfite per liter, you have to declare it on the bottle, which instantly makes people go, oh, there's sulfites. Well, there's also sulfites in France, Chile, Spain, Argentina.
But they have different laws.
Different ones, exactly.
Probably sulfites in orange juice.
Well, you know where there's a magnificent amount of sulfites is in dried fruit. So dried apricots, right about 300 milligrams per 2 ounce serving. This bottle of wine has about 94 parts per liter.
Per liter. Oh,
Per
well,
liter.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of one little.
Yeah, so sulfites are largely mistaken. Now, so you have naturally occurring sulfites that happen as a byproduct of fermentation. Then you have sulfites that are added as a preservative in winemaking. We want this wine to taste the way it tastes when it leaves our winery to when it hits your table. We need to do that by adding sulfites to preserve and to eliminate oxygen.
Yeah.
And by doing that, by adding sulfites, we engineer that preservative.
You control it.
Yeah, but it's not going above and beyond. It's not doing anything more than anybody else in wine making is doing. So, do white wines have more sulfites than reds? Yes. You know why? Because tannins are also a preservative. So is alcohol.
Yeah.
So and I've heard 1,000 opinions. I can't drink white wine. I can't drink red wine because it has, you're right. I can't drink that because it has sulfites. I have headaches because they have sulfites. Well, less than 1% of people in the world have a sulfite issue. Now, do you guys know this? Your body produces up to 1,000 milligrams of sulfites a day. And there's an enzyme that your body also produces that keeps it in balance. If you don't have that enzyme to keep it in balance, you become sulfite afflicted. But again, it's a very, very rare remedy. When people say I get a headache, it's the sulfites. No, it's not. It's histamines, or better yet, alcohol and dehydration. It's not sulfites. In fact, there's a
Dehydration, because alcohol dehydrates also. So if
Sure.
you go into it having
You
not
probably
drank
just had some coffee in the morning, why didn't I?
Yeah.
All dehydrated.
Yep.
drinking water, just to let you know.
So sulfites don't contribute to headaches. The amount of sulfites that we add to wine to act as a legitimate preservative aren't doing anything more than preserving the wine for the benefit of the consumer.
Yeah.
None of these wines have more than Well, by law in the United States, you can't put more than 350 milligrams per liter of sulfites in. I can tell you, because I've seen tests,
Yeah.
import wines that are going through the variation of heat travel
Right.
will often have a higher percentage of sulfites.
Right.
But even then, you're talking 120 milligrams per liter.
Yeah, the bottom line is what you said, stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
And don't drink too much.
Yeah,
Speaking of
moderation.
not drinking too much.
Let's drink this next one. So this one right here is Suspense. This is my favorite wine that we make. I
That's too
absolutely
bad,
love it.
because I know this is from Cab Franc, which I absolutely
Yes,
despise.
it is. You do not.
No, you are correct, sir.
Well, this is 75% Cab Franc, 25% Merlot, and it's 100% Connerly Vineyard. And this wine I absolutely love. And it doesn't hurt that my significantly better half also loves Cab Franc.
Oh.
And she, to the point where she loves Chenin, right? Which is really Cab
Chenin.
Franc. But this is a wine that has such beautiful expression, and it speaks to Connerly Vineyard.
Ah,
It's
it-
got, I mean,
It's Cab Franc. It's my fave.
How about 25 what?
at 25 Merlot.
And, yeah, Carmenere, right up there with it.
What I love is this beautiful balance of body to tannin to finish.
This is a
weight.
pretty wine.
Very pretty. Yeah.
That's the first thing that came to mind when I swallowed it. It is a pretty
It's
wine.
more purple than green.
No, I'm talking about the
Oh,
taste.
yeah,
No.
color. Oh, yeah, the color.
Yeah, it's got some purple in it.
It certainly does. There's an intensity to Cab Franc that I think Washington does an excellent job of preserving. It's seldom that you see varietal name Cab Franc. Washington's seeing it more and more. You have some guys that have been doing it for a very long time. John's certainly one of them. But I love the fact that a winemaker that digs it says, hey, I'm going to make a Cab Franc expression. And it's not going to be red blend, it's going to be Cab Franc dominant, because we make such great Cab Franc in Washington.
By the way, the 25% Merlot just feeds that.
Yeah, it rounds it out nicely.
Rounds it out nicely, yeah. What part of Canada are you from?
My dad is from Invermere and then north central BC. And they still live in Nelson, BC, just up the road.
Just up the road, up the 95. Shelley, did you pick that up? I was able to.
Actually, and he didn't say washroom, so.
No, he didn't say that or garage, but he did say A a number of
Oh,
times.
I did get the A.
And I'll refer to the trunk of my car as a trunk, not a boot.
I wanted to say. Oh,
You had no reason to say sorry, but you probably would have said
But I
sorry,
could.
not
Maybe I
sorry.
would.
I wanted to just say real quick some of the wines that we've had this week and enjoyed. 7 Cellar Chardonnay. That's a John Elway wine.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have John Elway on at some point with our Games of Grapes and Series.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I saw you had Drew and Damon Hewett on, right?
Yeah.
Those ones are really, and they're great guys, eh? They're really cool.
So Drew not as cool as Damon. Now down in Washington. Just saying. I have to tell you this. During the course of our recording, they were both great. We had a really good time. But I played the fight songs to Washington State, Washington, and then for Shelley's USC. And when I did the Husky fight song, Drew shut his camera off. And then when we played the USC song, he left on that too. I'm like, I'm right with you, Drew. And he goes, Shelley, I had such high hopes for you. It was going so well.
Actually, John's daughter is looking straight down the barrel at USC.
Oh, what?
Or should I say, John's looking straight down the barrel at his daughter going to USC.
Well, and Damon's brother, Luke, is on the coaching staff at USC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's, look, Pac-12 is Pac-12 until USC and UCLA leave. Then farewell, don't let the door slam you on the way out. So we had the 7 Cellar Chardonnay, Arroyo Seco is where that's from.
Cool.
And it's really surprised to get a John Elway wine like that. Massican Ania, what? It is brand new. Massican Ania is an Italian white from Napa. Chateau La Gravière, Shelley.
Unforgettable.
Thank you. We have the Monceau Chinon, because why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Clearwater Canyon, Estate Syrah. Just can't, it's too bad that was our last bottle. We have the Delille Chaleur Blanc, which we talked about, and the La Playa Carmenere, which one of the best value wines that we are going to have on in the featured wine at some point because it's so freaking good. Since we have you on, and yes, we have Bottle Joy, but I can say that you can get this up at Fred Meyer for under $7 a bottle.
Oh, that's cool.
Carmenere.
Because, yeah, it's a Carmenere that's really
If you
good.
special order.
If you special order, because they don't stock it, and it's 10% above cost, and Mark is there waiting for you to come by and order it. It's so good. It's so good.
For under $10.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I could.
No, don't kid me. Don't do that. So this, we're going to end up with this wine as a last thought. We'll put all the prices, the price
You
points
didn't
on
hold
this.
those up.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
So the price point on our white label signature series between 50, right around $55 to $60 a bottle.
Won't do it. This is 55, 60.
55 to 60, yeah.
I'll put that in the notes. And then the Protagonist.
Protect
Oh,
all three.
that's-
We line price these.
Beautiful.
Because again, the sourcing is always Connerly, Dionysus, Elfin Mountain. Those are maybe we'll blend a little Bacchus, Prestige, more fruit in, but it's predominantly the big three.
Yeah.
Connerly, Dionysus,
Oh,
and Elfin Mountain.
So, let me ask you this. If any of our listeners want to purchase any of these wines, obviously they could to go to the website and get them.
Sure.
Or they could special order them here in town because they're all available here in North Idaho.
You know, I mean,
That, to your knowledge?
all of these are available in Idaho,
Okay.
and all of them are represented between Studio 107, Bottle Joy, Dinner Party. Really, you know, these are wines that we have a limited retail chain trade, which is great.
Yeah.
But when it comes to especially the last three that we tasted, they're really more specialty retail.
Sure.
And we don't make a lot of them. I mean, that's the great thing is that we have the ability to source quality food to scale our readers tier.
Yeah.
So where you can find them at Fred Meyer. You can find them at Livia Rosa or
Sure.
Oaks. But then when it comes to our white label, these are ones that are going to be special order. Or I know Suspense. In fact, I'll probably go there later on tonight. Kurt has the Bottle Joy.
Yeah.
For $54, which is a great price. You know, in a place where you can sit down and have a glass.
It's such a
And you can have your dog there.
great place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Want a little something to eat? They got a food truck.
Yeah, their
right out
snacks.
there, right now.
And their beer selection is insane.
It is insane. And if you want a little place to sit away from a lot of the noise, they have that nice little seating area in the back of the store there. That's just it's really cool, and it's very much top notch. If you're a beer geek, that's up Kurt's alley, and Joy's gonna become a somm, so wine is up her alley.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I know that you guys have done some rebranding. The J. Bookwalter notebook, I think most people have
Yes.
seen that. But the readers and the Double Plus Chardonnay is such a great label, and it's such a great Chardonnay. It's just an outstanding wine. And by the way, it's under $30.
Yeah.
So let's just go with that. I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much for bringing this lineup of wine. We started with 6 bottles, we ended up with 7.
Yep.
And it's all fantastic. Everyone, you know where you can get this. I want to say next week we've got our Open That Bottle Night wines. We haven't decided yet, but we're going to have a Sauterne for sure from Terroir, from Trevor, and a bottle from Bottle Joy that Chris Cochran lost a bet with me. And he got me a wine from Bottle Joy.
And by the way, I might say, if there's one place, if you're not going to go and dig from Beverly Cellar, Trevor might be the guy. If you don't have a bottle to break out, to recommend a bottle to break out.
Yeah. No, Trevor, a good friend of ours, and he's doing great things up at Terroir. And we've got some in the future. We've got Mulled Wine Day on March 3rd, International Riesling Day on March 13th, Tanat Day. Tanat or not Tanat? That's the question. That's the 14th of April, and International Malbec Day on the 17th. Edward, thank you so much for being with us this week. I don't believe this will end up being a 2-hour episode. So Marie Betsy still has the record, but with a little bit of knowledge, and I think we've touched on a lot of it today, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you for listening. See you next week when we talk about Open That Bottle Night and some of these rare gems. Shelley, bring us out. Oh, bye.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you, to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.